now I'd like to tackle another interesting gaming question, not specifically a Nintendo question, so that's great. Look at me broadening my horizons in these topics. Yay! The next topic that I'd like to go over is E3. Is it losing relevance? So you may remember that last year, in 2019, Sony, who makes the PlayStation brand of consoles, decided to skip out on attending the Electronics Entertainment Expo, which is just better known as E3 because it's 3 E's. Wow. Well, according to this article by Christopher Dring from GamesIndustry.biz, PlayStation will not participate in E3 2020. So this is the second year in a row that Sony is choosing not to attend E3. Quote, the firm told GamesIndustry.biz that it does not feel the vision for the event is right for what it has planned for this year. Instead, it will attend hundreds of consumer events to showcase upcoming games for PS4 and PS5, unquote. So, Sony just doesn't think that E3 really fits the vision for what they want to do with the PS4 and the PS5. It's that simple. Now, I want to clarify something about this, is that E3 kind of just losing popularity and going down isn't necessarily unprecedented. In fact, companies choosing to bow out of E3 also is not unprecedented, because you have to remember that Nintendo bowed out of having traditional press conferences in 2013. That's 7 years ago now. God, I feel old despite not even being 20. Anyway, yeah, in 2013, Nintendo decided instead to present a special Nintendo Direct presentation during the show, and they've been doing that ever since. Now, Nintendo does continue to have games on the E3 show floor, and that's one element that the article really doesn't make clear, which is just because Sony's not going to have a press conference, does that mean that they're also not going to have PS4 and PS5 games out to show off? Or is there just not going to be anything? Now, one other little element of this is that I also did some additional research, and I couldn't find any indication that Sony had games out at E3 2019. So that just makes me think that Sony's not going to be at E3 2020 at all. So what does this mean? Is E3 dying? Is E3 going to be dead? I don't think so, at least not yet. Maybe in 5-10 years. I can't see it going on much longer, but it's not dying right now. Now, to clarify though, so the tension with this, between, I think it's the ESA and Sony, and then I think the article mentions Electronic Arts EA in here, is that they want E3 to be more of a fan event, while other publishers and then the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, is totally fine with letting E3 continue as an industry event. And to me, it's really interesting that there's this tension here, because regardless, over the years, E3 has had more and more people in attendance, and I guarantee you that not all 60,000 people that are in attendance are part of the industry, whether that's like developers, publishers, stockholders, media. Not all 60,000 of them are there from the industry. Fans attend E3. In fact, let me just put it out there right now, that has always been one of my dreams, is to go to E3. But it's definitely like that. The E3 as a show is definitely on borrowed time, kind of like places like GameStop, actually. And I think eventually all the console makers are going to transition to having just periodic broadcasts on upcoming games. So again, I bring up Nintendo. Like I said, they started doing the E3 Directs in 2013, but they've been hosting Nintendo Direct presentations as a whole since February 2012, which actually, as the time of recording this, is almost 8 years ago exactly. God, I feel old. I know I say this, and I'm really a super young person. Sony also began broadcasting their own show, which is similar to what Nintendo does. They make the State of Play presentations. They started those in March of 2019. Again, it's a similar structure. It's like periodically, oh my goodness, there's going to be a State of Play, and we're going to announce a bunch of new PlayStation games, and that's what happens. I hear the first two haven't been particularly exciting, especially when you do compare them to Directs, but I'm sure Sony's going to get better at them. And then finally, Microsoft has broadcast their show Inside Xbox once a month starting in March 2018. Now, I'm sure I haven't seen any of those, but the fact that they do these episodes once a month, they're clearly not all just announcing games. I mean, there's definitely game announcements in it, but there's probably a lot more background, like here are these developers and here's what they do, and a lot more detailed updates on games, which is certainly interesting, and I would definitely value seeing more of that put out there, but I also think that's more what the game media itself is supposed to do. And like I said, they've been doing that since March of 2018. Now, let's be honest here. Console manufacturers already have these shows. Why would they not use them for free when they have information ready that they want to show off, instead of having a network with a live show and probably pay a bunch of people to come to it and pay traveling? And that just sounds like a lot more of an expense, a lot more of just a pain to try to coordinate. Now, that's not to say I want to see E3 go away, if only so I can attend it once, but also because of all the unique experiences that come out of it. People get to play exclusive game demos at E3. Like, I can't tell you how many games there are that is like, oh, I'm excited for that. I hope there's a demo for it. And then there's no demo for it. Like, a great example of that for me is like, I showed off the Amiibo in the last episode, but The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. I would love to play a demo for that. But there's no demo released for that on the eShop. But people at E3 got to play a demo for it. So there are all these like special game demos that are out there that would be great to preserve, and the only reason that they get made is because there are shows like E3 out there, and I think it would be a huge shame if the experience of having a bunch of these demos and unique pieces and big giant props made for a show like this just suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth, because people like that stuff. I think it's certainly very special. People take pictures, they make costumes. I mean, granted, there are other conventions that are meant to be for fans about selling games with vendors and stuff, but there's not, like, the big developers aren't there. You'll definitely get your small independent developers there wanting to show off their games and get people to try them out, but it's not the same as having the 30-plus person long line to go try out this big new PlayStation game or this big new Xbox game that everybody's excited about. It would just be a shame if that was gone. Overall, I don't really have a ton of thoughts on E3. I'm excited to see what comes out of it this year. If it ends up that even Microsoft and Nintendo and some third-party publishers decide it's time to officially bow out, then, I'll just look forward to whatever other presentations are recorded throughout the year, watch those, see how they go, and because no matter what, these games are still going to come out. They're going to be exciting. It should be a good time. Door. Why don't we move on to our next topic here?